I would say this is the best alternative for somebody like me that is always watching the budget and trying to be careful what I'm spending and getting what I need. So this is another new component that we did this year, is like an equipment evaluation. So just know this, you guys, I've never run a homestead of this scale. I've been a 2-3 acre guy. Now I'm a 44 acre guy with fields and creeks and all that sort of thing. So there's a learning curve to learning what equipment are you going to use, what's valuable, what's not. And I just want to report to you that one of the most valuable pieces of equipment on Ripple Ranch by a mile has been our golf carts. We have 3 of them. We have 2 just normal golf carts, and we use them all the time. I mean, every day. And then this ST350, which we call Stacy ST. And Stacy is actually a golf cart that's made as the maintenance cart on golf courses. So it's made from the manufacturer like this. It has a cool little dump bed where you can dump stuff, and it has a bigger engine. But this one, it's the first one I found. I don't know how available they are. There's used golf carts all over the place. But these that are this, I think I was really lucky to find it. When I came across it, the owner said it had engine problems, but that everything was cool in the gang. And I believe they genuinely thought that. But after I bought it and ran it for a little while and it started pooping the bed even worse, we realized that the engine was shot. And so there was a company that we were able to send our core to. They rebuilt the engine and then got it back. So I think I paid, because of the engine problems, I only paid like $1,800 for this. So the engine was $1,200. These, I looked at what they were new, they're like almost 20 grand. So for roughly 3-4 grand, we have a super cool little utility cart, and we'll dial it out. We'll put like little shovel holders and stuff like this. It's got good tires. This thing actually has way better, softer suspension than our other units, and it's got a more powerful engine. So this has become a really good buy, in my opinion, for the utility on a small homestead or a working ranch where you can run around. Because here's the problem I have with the UTVs. Number one, they are crazy freaking expensive. I mean, crazy expensive. So if you don't want to buy new and crazy expensive, then you buy used and problematic. And when you buy used and problematic in that range, they're also really expensive to work on, and they become expensive. And I don't think they're any more utilitarian. Now, you should know we run all engine-based golf carts. So it has an electric motor that fires up the engine. So you jump in it, you push go, the little electric motor spins the engine and the engine kicks in. But these things get crazy good gas mileage. I mean, we're using them all the time during the summer. We're filling them up about once a month, and I think they have a 3-gallon or 4-gallon tank. So they're really cost effective. They're non-problematic. They work super well. They're really easy in and out. You don't have to open and close the door. The disadvantage, probably the fact that you can't have doors and windshield wipers, and to put a cover, we actually put covers on ours during the window. They're about $100, and it actually is a plastic cover that goes over with zip open windows, and that's kind of inconvenient versus one of those really nice cab UTVs. And honestly, if I had the money to spend 20 or 30 grand on a nice UTV with doors and windshield wipers and a heater, I probably would. I just don't. So I would say this is the best alternative for somebody like me that is always watching the budget and trying to be careful what I'm spending and getting what I need. Now, the other thing I want to tell you on the equipment level is that I had a really cool tractor, and I had it for a while, and I also had kind of a ranch truck that we used as our fire truck. And one thing I quickly discovered is that if you're going to have equipment on the ranch that you're not actually using very often, then you're going to have problems from lack of use, and they're expensive problems. They're problems like because you don't start it enough, you end up with brake line issues, engine issues, carburetor issues, transmission issues. After a few times, and the batteries are always dead, and there's lots of things you can do to overcome those, but they're all more things to do that it felt like we didn't have time to do. So we got rid, we instead of carrying our fire system on a truck, we sold the truck, we bought a cheap $1,000 trailer, and now we just have a trailer we hook up to that we can fight fires with, and we put our pump on it, and now I don't have to worry about an engine, transmission, and drivetrain to try to keep running just for a fire truck. It was easier to use a fire trailer. So this is our fire trailer instead of our fire truck. This was a buddy of mine who is also our mechanic who shows up and works on our equipment, which if you're getting ready to get in homesteading and you have equipment, you need to know that, like, especially if you have my budget and you're not mechanical, one of your large expenses is going to be repairing equipment. We have a lot of vehicles. We have, you know, the golf carts, and when little things go wrong, I'm mechanical, but I don't have the time or the patience to be a good mechanic. And so I just hire it out, and it's expensive. If you have to take it into town every time, it's even worse. And a mobile mechanic is more expensive, but luckily, because I think the way I hold myself, I don't ask people for deals. I have a hard time asking for help. But the great part about treating people super well and having what other people see as kind of a beautiful mission in the world is they want to give you a deal, and they want to help. And my mechanic is that way. He's become a dear friend, and you know, when he leaves, I say I love you. We're that way about things, and he's a very dear friend. And shout out to Lauren, and thank you for being such a contributor here to Ripple Ranch. But he was the master plan. Number one, he had the trailer, and the trailer was an old snowmobile trailer for him, so it had a really long end. So we cut the end off and made it shorter so it would be more mobile, because when we're pulling this around trying to fight fires, we need something that it can get around. And what we did, in before we only had 500 gallons, this we have 750 gallons, and then we actually plumb them underneath, and then they come out through the pump, and then there's two heads up here that we hook the fire hose to. So the biggest thing that you need when you're fighting fire is you need enough hose where your guy fighting a fire is out here and the driver can see you. So you only need enough hose to kind of be here, and then he can see, and he's not running over you with the trailer and that sort of thing. So we set it up in that way. Plus, 750 gallons is a lot of weight at 8 pounds a gallon. Is that 5,600 pounds of sloshing energy in this trailer? So being able to lock it down in the way that we did, and having a deck to hold it down to, and basically keeping it in ready position all summer by putting some bleach in here so you're not growing green liquid and doing that. But this ends up becoming what we fight fires with. And so this is kind of our fire truck, and a simple little pump. We can run both a 1-inch line and a 2-inch line. And when you're fighting fire, I've discovered by fighting a few fires now, is that your largest vulnerability is running out of water. So it was really interesting to learn from somebody who knew how to fight fires, which is my neighbor Bob, great guy, that we fight down the fire line. So if the fire is burning this way, rather than us spraying it like this, you spray it up the line. So your overspray is accomplishing something, and so is your underspray. And learning that technique was big. The other technique that he taught me that I wouldn't have thought of is give up on a bush or a tree. Don't try to put out a big flaming burning bush. Fight the fire around the bush, because you can beat it away from it way better than you could at the actual large burning unit itself. And the other one that we learned is having those backpack mounted leaf blowers. We successfully put down a ton of fire when we had the big one 2 years ago by fighting the fire line with a leaf blower and burning the fire back into the black, into the ash, and then just with one person kind of coming up and mopping up with the shovel, you could literally fight fire about this pace. I mean, you could put it out that quickly, and you can make it a long ways and push a fire around your property, especially if you live where I live, where most of it's grass. You can push a fire around, and that's what we have to do here. Our whole thing is to keep the creek out of the creek, or the fire out of the creek bottom, because if it gets into the creek bottom, then controlling it there will be really difficult, evidenced by the fact that 11 years ago, if you can imagine this, 11 years ago, this entire creek bottom burned to the ground in a fire. So it's actually 12 now. So every tree that you see here is 12 years old or younger. And this area has just come back from a devastating fire that got into the creek bottom, burned up the whole creek bottom, burned up the neighbor's house. And that's what we really try to do. Instead of thinking about us putting out the fire, we're trying to push the fire around the ranch and from getting into the creek bottom. And it's a coordination between our neighbors that we try to do that. I have a really friendly, super kind neighbor upstream. I have a not so friendly neighbor downstream who doesn't seem to think that fire prevention is important. He's difficult to deal with that way. And so we're trying to kind of take it on all on our own in concerning that, and making sure that we can defend ourselves from his perimeter as well. So work with your neighbors, develop a fire plan. If you're in an area where that's possible, there's so many things that you can do between fire breaks and having fire prevention and making sure that you're using your animals to forage areas that are vulnerable, and knowing how fire moves through or could move through your area. I actually did Google Earth research to find out how fires burnt in the past. So you can actually look at Google Earth, and it takes pictures of your area from a satellite like once every couple of years. So I would go back and look at all the years, and when I found a year that there was fire, I paid attention on how it moved on the mountain, and then also how the Forest Service came in and sprayed it, because you could see their fire retardant marks and what they were able to do to help us in it as well. And we had those planes on that big fire we had 2 years ago, and my knowledge of that helped me to know where our problem spots were and where we really needed to concentrate our efforts as it was coming. So I hope you find that helpful. This is the fire truck and what we've kind of done with it. And many of you are probably not in an area where this is a concern, but some of you are. So I thought I would go over what we had done with our fire trucks. And which, by the way, we fight a fire on Ripple Ranch every year since I've lived here, 4 years in a row now. The one we had this year, I was able to beat with a shovel because I caught it early. It was somebody throwing out a cigarette butt on the highway. And it almost always gets started from the highway. So anyway, that's kind of some of the equipment stuff, but the tractor fell in that range. We just couldn't keep that sumbitch running. We couldn't keep it started because it was always dead. We didn't use it often enough. And so I just said, let's just sell the tractor. Let's sell that farm truck and be invested in the things that we use. And I'm telling you, I get enough done on my small homestead towing around equipment with a vehicle. I tow around my harrow and stuff like that in my chore truck, which my chore truck is one of those little mini trucks. And I still like that bugger, but honestly, for all of us, we use the golf carts more than we use that because it's just another step. You got to open a door, you got to start it, you got to get in. There's something to be said for just sliding in and hit and go when you're going about a golf cart that's crazy handy. But this one, I could not live without. I just could not live without it. With how much dirt we move and roads I take care of and gravel I spread and earth moving I use to try to level out our flat spots and hauling big things that we can't haul another way, the telephone poles. This skid steer, I don't think has ever sat for a full week without being used since we bought it over 3 years ago. This has been one of the biggest blessings. Now, I have heard from the construction industry and even from the manufacturer of the JCB that these things can be problematic in a commercial application where people aren't taking care of them, where they're running them all day, every day, and they become problematic as parts begin to wear and stuff. Now, I haven't seen any of that. This thing's been gold for us. We haven't had really any big mechanical stuff. We've had little stuff here and there that we broke because it is easy to bump things and rip things and do that stuff. It's a big, powerful piece of equipment. But moving compost to picking up horse shit in the pen and all that stuff, this skidster is easily the most utilized piece of equipment, and I would never not have one. And having the additional backhoe on the back on a Homestead, worth its weight in gold. I mean, in gold. So that's what I would say kind of about our equipment. And then this is a good opportunity to speak about the other parking area. So a lot of that dirt that we took from our other parking area and needed to move got moved to here. And you can actually see if we move up here a little bit more that there's this berm right here, right? And we don't have any type of watering or irrigation here. So what we did is we ran a bunch of hose, and because we were getting erosion off this pad and it was eroding down on my road, and I knew we needed anti-erosion. So what we did is we planted it by hand. We put a bunch of compost in there and made the soil really, really good. And then we put anti-erosion mesh on there and planted grass seed only, and it was like a common fescue, and then knew that the natural fauna would also take hold. And this now, I mean, it's one of the prettiest patches on the ranch because we allowed between the grass and the moisture conservation and all those different things. This has not been watered since like the tail end of summer, so probably end of July. Yeah, end of July is the last time we had any water, and we're talking like yard waterers is what we use. And we tried to just keep it kind of wet so the seed would grab hold. And now because the soil is healthy and the erosion aspect of that pad pushing moisture onto it, the whole pad comes onto here so it gets the moisture it needs anytime it rains. And that strategy worked super duper well. We're very, very happy not only with the anti-erosion component, and there are a lot of people that would call this our weed patch, but our goats eat it, our horses eat it when it gets too long, and it's fantastically beautiful to the eye because it's green and it's natural and it stays greener longer without water than almost any other place on the ranch. You can also see that we created the parking pad. Now the parking pad, between this and that section right there, so this is our main parking area. It'll park about 35 cars, but then our extra parking, if we need extra, are in these additional areas that we just simply mowed. So through kind of some resourcefulness, we created an area of about 50 to 60 cars that can park here, 30 cars that can park there, and then we do have the overflow section right here where we park all our equipment during weddings where people can park as well. So we never had any issues with parking doing weddings as many as 200 this summer, and that was a huge advantage. So that's kind of this area. It is worth mentioning that we did paint the milk barn as well, and the birthing stalls. That area was looking like crap, and I'm really glad we did that along in tandem. Our milk barn is ones that get seen on our tours, and we do a lot of tours. When people want to be our milk customers, we tell them, hey, we're going to make an appointment with you. We're going to show you the does. We're going to show you the ranch. We're going to show you what it's about, and we're going to show you why our milk's worth $20 a gallon, which is what we get for it. This year was the first year where we held constant flavor consistency throughout the season, and that's due to Christina, the lady who runs our milk barn. She's out of New York. She came here because she wanted to learn about goats, and it was kind of a work share style situation. We brought her on more as a partner in the milk operation, and she's turned this thing into something so beautiful because last year we had milk flavor issues because our worker was not as adept at like maintaining cleanliness like we would expect, and that always shows up in the flavor. We also had problems last year with our milk being difficult during the peak heat of the summer to get cooled quick enough, so we made our own hillbilly hacked cooling chamber that can cool 3 gallons of milk at once, and it works super well. And that particular system and Christina's diligence allowed us to hold customers all the way to the end of the year that are fervent believers, where we had to start over from afresh the year before. We lost a lot of customers and faith in us, and it was heartbreaking because we worked so hard to get them to get here and get exposed and be willing to come as a regular. This year we lost no one. In fact, the word of mouth was crazy. Now we're drying up our doughs. It's getting ready for the off season, and we know that we will start again in the spring with a full customer list and not have to spend the money. So our profiting is going to be far better next year, and we may entertaining upping our amounts. And we only milked once a day this season. Maybe we stay at twice a day because we have the customers. And you know, if we are consistently milking about 12 gallons a day at 20 bucks a gallon, 12 times 3, 36, 3,600 times 20, 3,360 times 20. It's roughly, let's call it 8-9 grand a month in profit. And we're just a small homestead making 12 gallons a day. So, you know, it's good money and we can pay the bills with that. But we needed one good season to be able to do that. And we finally got that this year. So I'm super stoked about it.